This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, guys. Welcome to vividtrainings.com. So, today we are going to understand the new topic in SQL Server, that is the stored procedures. Okay, so this is very, very important. So, what is exception handling? We'll discuss. Okay, I will let you know what is exceptional handling. So, first, let us understand what is meant by stored procedure. So, what is the need for stored procedure and how to create a stored procedure? How we are going to execute the stored procedure? We are going to be discussing. Okay, this is forget about this. Okay, so think a client scenario. So client scenario is nothing but, for example, let's take a bank example. Let's take some bank, Indian bank, let's take. Okay, so the accountant information and the accountant transactions, what he is doing, everything is going to store in the database, right? So to that database, so many people, so many, okay, uh, like using, and they are going to connect to this database, and it is going to, like, we are going to request some kind of data for the database, and we are getting some kind of result in the output, right? So when we write the SQL query, select star from accounts table, so when I execute, what it is going to happen, it will go and it will connect to database, and it will ask to the database to get the data for this particular table on some this condition. So it is going to get the data, and the result set you can see in the same, okay, window, right? So if you think Indian bank server is working, okay, it is having one database, the complete data is available in this database, so many bank employees are going to connect to this database, or else these are like ATMs. Let's understand like ATM. Okay, this is one ATM, this is one ATM, this is one ATM. So this is the database. Okay, so what we are doing in ATM, so we are inserting our debit card, and we are going to give some kind of pin number and some etc etc things. So it, what it will do when you insert your debit card, so what it will do, what it will show the next minute, so the transaction is processing. So it will read that particular chip, and it will request to the database whether this account or this debit card number is available in our database or not. Okay, so it will ask, what it will show, if it is available, then it will show your name on the display, right? After that, it will ask you to proceed some transaction processes, right? So okay, this is what going to happen. So when you are going to enter some amount to do the transaction, so what it will do, it will check whether your account is having sufficient balance or not. Again, it will send the request to the database, and it will get the data. If it is available, then you can do the transaction, right? So this is what is going to happen, right? So if you client server architecture, so what happens when we keep our code at server side, what happened client side, what happened if we keep our code at, okay, client side. Okay, so client side, okay, and server side, both sides. Okay, so let us understand, this is the client server architecture. So just now we have discussed, this is an ATM. So when you insert your debit card, it will read the debit card, and it will ask to the database, right? This is the database, this is the server, this is the database, this is the Indian bank database. In Indian bank database, what we can have, we can store the data, plus we can centralize, or we can okay, store the code also. Okay, in the previous sessions we have discussed about a view. So view is used to centralize the code, right? It is keeping some code somewhere in the database, right? We can put the data, or we can, and we can put the code also, we can store the code also in a database, right? So the ATM is going to ask some kind of request to the database, okay, by running the code or by doing some blah 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 things, it will resend the, okay, output to the client. Okay, so this is what it is going to happen. So if we keep code at a client side, what will happen? If we keep code at server side, what will happen? So let us see. So the following are the disadvantage when we keep the code at client side. Client side means what? Client side means, so client is what? This is the ATM. If we keep the code at ATM, what will happen? What will happen? So network traffic is high, maintenance of a code is difficult, no security for the code at a client side. That means code can be tampered easily, right? Performance of the code is also slow. Okay, these are the disadvantages if we keep our code at a client side, like in ATM machines like that. Okay, maintenance of the code is difficult. Why? Because so if someone is pressing some, if he's doing some transaction, okay, so someone is doing some blah 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 thing, so the code will go and it will stuck, it will not perform very fastly, or it will not show what the next step actually. So if we keep our code at ATM or some client side, then it will not work properly. It is very very difficult to maintain that code. Okay, so no security for the code at client side. That means code can be tampered easily. So anybody, so some hackers, what they will do, they will go to the ATM and they can open that ATM and they can okay, if we are keeping our code means, so they can easily hack that ATM machine and they can easily change the code, and they can okay, they can do the complete code change, so it will not work, right? So that is also very very big drawback if we keep our code at client side. So performance of the code is also very very slow. Okay, so if we keep code at server side, what will happen? So to overcome above issues, we need to centralize code at server side. That is the very good option. So to keep the code at server, we have following options. We have views, stored procedures, functions, right? So by using these three, okay, options, we can store our, or we can centralize our code at server side. Server is nothing but database. Okay, we can store our code, right? We can centralize our code by using views, we have seen, right? But only one select statement we can store, right? That is what you need to understand. Okay, if anybody is asking, so where the code is going to store, the code is going to store at server side or client side. So if anyone is asking, then you can take one example. Sir, let's take Indian Bank or some other bank example. So here the ATM machine is the client, okay, and my server is at bank, something else. So when I keep my code at the client side in the ATM machine, then anybody can easily tamper that code. That is very simple. So the performance is also very very slow, it will not work properly fastly. Okay, but if I keep our code at server side, like in there is a database, so if I want to centralize it, so I can have three different options: views, stored procedures, and functions. So views is nothing but it is also used to centralize the code, but we can, okay, store only the single select statement data. I mean single select statement with, right? Am I right? We can write, okay, we can write only single select statement, not multiple select statements. You cannot write any kind of programming, you cannot write any kind of passing the input parameters, output parameters, okay, all these things we cannot do. We cannot insert the data inside the view, we cannot update the data inside the view, we cannot delete the data inside the view, but outside the view we can delete, okay, update, insert the data, right? So that is what. Now stored procedure. So coming to stored procedure, what are the advantages of stored procedure? So no network traffic from client to server. Okay. So maintenance is very easy. Security will be high. There is a unique feature called cache execution plan. Because of this feature, stored procedures are faster compared to other features like views and function. Okay, so very simple. This is a very important point you need to say if anybody is asking. So there is a unique feature called cache, okay, execution plan. So because of that, the code, okay, because of that, the stored procedures are going to work very fast. Correct? Okay, because of this. So what is a view? So view, we have created a view. So what we are doing, when we call a view or when we read the data from that view, what it will do, it will go to that particular view and it will execute the query inside the view, right? How many times you will call that view, so it is going to that particular query, what is the query available in that view, and it will run that query. Every time when you call, it is going to repeat the same thing. But stored procedure is having one more beautiful feature, so called cache execution plan. So because of this feature, stored procedures are faster compared to other features. Cache execution. So cache means what? Cache means RAM, memory, you can say memory. Okay, so when you create a stored procedure, okay, when you create a stored procedure, whatever the result we are going to be getting, that is going to store in the cache, in the memory first. Okay, when we call that stored procedure, it will go and get the data from that memory. So that is why it is very very fast. But views will execute the select query available in that view. Okay, but that select query is going to have many number of tables, joins, and blah blah blah. So every time the query is going to run. But once if you create a view, okay, so the complete thing is going to store in the memory. So when you call the stored procedure, it will provide you the out. So that is the difference between a view and a stored procedure. This is the very important feature in stored procedure. Okay, so you can create once, call multiple times. Okay, you can create once, call multiple times. So by using this, we can centralize the code. We can reusability is also available. Reusability is nothing but you can use that code. You can do alters. Okay, for this also you can do alters. Clear everyone? So these are the advantages. So what are the features? So this is also an database object. That means dbo dot table name, right? So dbo dot stored procedure name. So this is also having the feature only in the current db. So can I create a stored procedure for another db? No, only for the current database only we can create. So maximum size 128 MB it can store. Only syntax check during creation. So when you are creating a view, create view name as select star from account master go, right? So this is what the syntax. Okay, when you create this view, what it will do? It will create the view, just creating the view. Okay, so in the same way here also in stored procedure, it will check only the syntax errors. If you have written any kind of a code in your stored procedure, it won't check anything, but only the syntax checking is going to happen when you are going to create a stored procedure. Okay, so and deferred, okay, deferred name resolution. So we'll discuss this later, name resolution. And the temporary procedures, you can create a local temporary local temp procedure and global temp procedure, so as like tables. So this is the syntax to create a stored procedure. See, create proc, you can write procedure or you can write proc. Okay, in the real time, some people are going to call this as proc, some people are going to call this as procedures. Okay, or some people are going to call SPs, stored procedures. Okay, some people will ask, have you created SP? Okay, some people will ask you, have you created a proc? Like that, have you created procedure? Like that they are going to be calling. Okay, so if somebody says what proc means or what is proc means, then you will, okay, they think like you are a fake. Okay, so please make a note of all these things. Okay, you can call proc, procedure, okay, SPs, like that, anything. So create proc name, bracket open close, in this input or output parameters. So input or output parameters means, input parameter means if you want to pass some kind of value to the stored procedure, you can pass by passing the input parameters. Okay, so same like output parameters. So we are going to be discussing input and output parameters in real time, I mean in the practical session. So the next thing is as begin. So you can do whatever you want in begin and end. You can declare variables, you can do programming, you can create, you can have all DDL and DML operations, you can call another stored procedure, you can call function, you can call view. So there is one more called cursor, so you can call to that, you can write the written statements also. Okay, all DDL and DML means insert, update, delete, create, right? Okay, so all the things, whatever the things you have, you can do. That is what about the stored procedure. But views does not allow all these things. Am I right or not? Am I right or not? View does not allow all these things. So view, it will allow only one single select statement. Am I right? So only one single select statement the view is going to allow, but stored procedure will allow whatever the operations you want to do, you can do. Okay, so here DDL, DML, okay, whatever the things, if you want to write multiple select statements, you can write multiple select statements. If you want to write multiple insert statement, you can write multiple, not only single. So any one we need to write, or we can write all, you can write all. How many you want to write, you can write how those many things. Okay, so this is what you need to understand about the stored procedure syntax. The next thing is how we are going to call this stored procedure. How we are going to call this stored procedure. So how we are going to call the what table. So select star from some table name, right? But for stored procedure, we are going to be calling it as execute stored procedure name we are going to be writing. Okay, exec, okay, exec stored procedure name. What is mean by execute? It is an execute. Clear? So the disadvantages of stored procedure, cannot be called as a part of select, insert, update, delete. That means we have seen in the last sessions while creating a view, inside the view we cannot write, or we cannot do any kind of insert operation, right? Insert into some table values, some that blah blah blah, you cannot do, only single select statement it will allow, right? Outside the view, to the view, after creating a view, if it is an updatable view, we can update the data, we can insert the data, we can delete the data also. That is possible. We can select the view also, select star from view name. But coming to stored procedure, we cannot be called. That means we cannot call select stored procedure or select star from stored procedure name. It is wrong, it will show error. You cannot do insert into stored procedure name values, some blah 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 values. It will not support. Update is also not support. Delete is also not support. Only this is the only disadvantage if the stored procedure is having. Apart from everything, so inside the stored procedure, while creating the stored procedure, you can write select statements. How many you want, you can write. You can write insert statements, how many you want, you can write. You can write update statement also, delete statement also, how many you want, whatever you want, you can. Okay, so this is the thing you need to know. Okay, so now at the time of stored procedure creation, so what we can say, using the parameters, we'll discuss about this. First time execution, this is what so yeah, at the time of stored procedure creation, so I told you at the time of creation, so create proc name you have written, so some code you have written. So when you are executing that complete thing, that means it is going to create a stored procedure. So at the time of stored procedure, so we can what uh, so the stored procedure is going to validate, or the stored procedure is going to check the syntaxes for the whatever the parameter name you have given, whatever the data type, whatever the default value, input or output parameters, all these things it is going to be doing. So encryption, so encryption it will also do, it will encrypt the code. So recompilation option is also available. Recompilation is nothing but, so you can stop between. Okay, so that means I told you, when you create a stored procedure, everything is going to be stored in the RAM, right? So recompilation is nothing but whatever the RAM is having the data currently, that will delete and it will create a new plan. Okay, in a cache execution plan, what is cache execution plan means? It will store the data when you create a stored procedure. When you are going to recompile, so that means if you want to start from starting again, so what it will happen, whatever the old data is having in this plan, it will delete and it will create a new plan. Okay, so recompilation option used to create an execution plan freshly. Okay, so whatever the execution plan is going to do, it will, okay, uh, it is going to create freshly from starting onwards. Clear everyone? So this is what the point you need to know. So using parameters, I will let you know guys, don't worry. So first time execution. Okay, first time execution. So what happens when the stored procedure first time it is created? So existence check for all objects reference. That means I told you it is having a feature of database object dbo dot stored procedure new. So first time when it is going to be creating, it is going to be checking in which schema or in which object, for which object, database object it is going to be creating or not. It is going to be going, it is going to check all these things. Okay, so validations also, like compatibility of a column data type with variables used. That means I have created one what uh, I have shown you right before also. So let me show you that once again. Use company, no, Indian bank. So, So I'm going to declare one variable at the rate branch id. This is the variable name. Okay, the data type is character 10. If I give character 10, okay, I'm going to set at the rate branch id is equal to character means I need to write in single quote, that is br3. Okay, so what I'm doing, select star from account master table where brid is equals to, okay, at the rate branch id. Okay, why I have written like this? I told you variable. So variable, what it can do, it can store the data and it can move the data from one place to another place. So now we have set some data to this variable, that is br3 value I have inserted into this, right? So the br3 value is available in this variable, so that variable I have mentioned here. So now when you run this complete thing, it will show you whatever the br3 customers you have. So see, all br3 customers. Okay, so here, so compatibility of a column data type with variables used. So here I have given character 10, but the account master branch ID, what is the data type we have? We have character 3. See, BRID, we have the data type character 3, but I have given character 10. So when you are writing some kind of this kind of expressions in a stored procedure, okay, it will check whether whatever the variables you have taken, whatever the data types you have taken for that variable is same as whatever the table you are including, whatever the data type you have in the table, it is going to check that actually the data type and the length. Okay, so if it is going to be wrong, if I have given integer here, but here it is a what, character data, so it will not give up the output, correct output. So that is why before creating, so this small syntax issues, it will check while creating the table itself, while creating, sorry, while creating the stored procedure first time, when it is executing all these things, it is going to be checked. Why? Because so all the whatever the things you have written, whatever the code you have written, you are going to be, okay, writing that in the proc. Create proc name user stored procedure test. Okay. Now what? Bracket open and close as begin end. This is the syntax, right? So is it correct? As begin and end. In this begin and end, so if you want to have parameters, you can always, let me discuss that later. So this is what exactly the, okay, code you need to write over here. In between this, you need to write the code. Okay, you can declare variable, you can read the, you can use the select statement, you can filter the data, you can set the data to the variable, whatever the things you want to do inside the stored procedure, you can do. But when I'm executing this, when I'm first time, when I'm creating this stored procedure, so it is going to validate this first point, whatever I have shown you, validation. Okay, so column data type, it is going to be verifying. So creation of execution plan. So execution plan, so volume of data, nature and presence, if indexes, comparison operators, so presence of joins, unions, group by and order by keywords. So when it is going to execute, so volume of data, so how much data is available, how much data it is going to store. So it is going to be, okay, going to create all these plan, okay, this complete plan it is going to store, okay, it is going to be working. Okay, so plan cached and reused for subsequent calls. Okay, plan cached means, so whatever the plan you have, okay, that plan is going to store or cached means it is going to store in the ram and reused for subsequent calls. That means the code or the whatever the thing you have stored while creating the stored procedure, so that is going to be created in the ram. I mean, it is going to be stored in the ram, okay, in the ram. So when you call that stored procedure, that means, okay, it is going to get the data from that particular ram. So that is what the last point meaning, plan cached and reused for subsequent calls. Okay, so these are the things you need to know. So when stored procedure is slow, you need to do recompile. So where it is actually recompilation. So recompilation is used to create execution plan freshly and it will cache it. Okay. So with recompile option during creation, with recompile option during execution. Okay. SP underscore recompile proc name DBA. So this is a DBA people. So with recompile option during creation dev. So if you are working in dev environment, okay, in development environment, or if you are working in client environment, so if your code should recompile is nothing but, so it is used to create execution plan freshly. It will delete the old data or whatever the thing it is having, and it will create once again freshly. So if you write with recompile option, then only it will recompile. Okay, so then only it will recompile. If not, it will not recompile. Okay, you need to must and should you need to give the with recompile option. Then only it will work. How to debug stored procedure? So debug is nothing but Alt F5. So you can do, or else you are going to be having one option called debug. When you beside this execute option, so when you click on that debug, it will show you step by step operation, step by step execution. Okay, so then you need to press F11. So if you press F11, it will go and show you the first execution part, what it is executed. When you press one more time F11, it will show the next part execution. So which part is executing and whatever the things, it is going to be showing one step by step. So let's down at this. Okay, so let me give you some examples, okay, to understand the stored procedure. So this is a syntax, right? So let me, okay, don't worry about this, don't worry about this. So stored procedure, so simple stored procedure, how to create means create proc proc name. So user stored procedure, USP, you need to write user stored procedure means the user, whoever the user using this SQL Server software, that guy has created this is particular procedure. So that is why user stored procedure. Let's say welcome, so as begin and end. So you can write some print options also. Okay, like print welcome to, okay, SQL, some kind of things. You can execute it. So it has created. So while creating, it will check whether it is having any kind of syntax issues. Okay. So call stored procedure. How to call stored procedure? Exec proc name. So what is the proc name? This is the proc name, procedure name. Now execute it. So it will show you welcome to SQL. Whatever the code you have written, it is going to get the data. Welcome to SQL. Clear everyone? If you want to drop, proc. So what is the syntax means? Proc, proc, proc name. Okay, or ESP name or stored procedure name. Drop, proc, proc name. Now execute it. See commands completed successfully. Sir, where this stored procedure is going to centralize? I told you in the database. So what is the database? Indian Bank database. Okay, refresh this Indian Bank database. If you come to the programmability, you can see there is a folder called stored procedures. You have system stored procedures. So these many are the system stored procedures it has created. Okay, so and so user defined stored procedures we don't have just now. I have dropped, right? So let me create it. Now go and refresh. Now expand. You can see there is a DBO database object dot USP underscore welcome. USP underscore welcome. This is the stored procedure name. Okay. When you execute, it will show you whatever the data you have. If you want to drop, you can drop it. That you can do. Clear, everybody? So this is a very simple code. So if you want to get the code, okay, if you want to get the code, sp underscore help text stored procedure name, whatever the stored procedure name you can see. This is the complete thing I have stored. Create a proc name as begin. Okay, some end. This is the code I have written. Clear, everyone? Okay, so that is the thing you need to understand. Okay, so if you want to modify the stored procedure, okay, so I want to modify welcome to SQL server, this complete code. So what I will do, I will get the code. Okay, I will take all these things, copy, like put it in this. So when I execute again, it will show you already there is an object called welcome blah blah blah. Already this is database, sorry, this procedure is available in our database. You cannot create again, you need to do alter. Okay, if you read the data from this first view, welcome to SQL, but I am doing alteration, I am altering the data, so I can change the code also. SQL server, when you alter the data, I mean when you alter the stored procedure, now read the stored procedure. Now you can see SQL server. Welcome to SQL server. Okay, so this is what you can do. Okay, you can modify the code also. Clear? So uh, so for example, what I will do, some examples, let me clearly explain you. uh, get my balance. Very simple code. So how you are going to get the balance? Let's start from account to master table. So where ACID, I know my account number, I am going to check okay, 100, okay, 67, something else. My balance is, okay, there is 67 is not there, so 37. My balance is some 9 lakhs or 90,000 something. Okay, so so I want to get my balance by creating a stored procedure. Okay, so what we can do, we can copy this complete code and we can create one what stored procedure, and we can store that code into the stored procedure. So create proc name USP underscore um, get my balance. Okay, so as begin and end, what I'm going to be doing means I am going to be writing this query. So commands executed successfully. Now call ESP. How to call ESP? So exec stored procedure name USP underscore get my balance. So this is my balance. I got this. Okay, some blah 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 thing. But this code or this stored procedure name you have sent to your manager, and manager executed, and he can see the balance of Umaran. Tomorrow morning, the same project manager, what he is asking you guys, I want the balance of some other guy, some account number like 10010. Okay, so that is the account number. I want who is that guy, and I want what is the balance having to that guy. So what you need to do? Again, you need to come, and again, what you need to do? You need to alter this, right? ACID, they are asking 10010. This account number data. Now create this procedure. If you are going to say it, you are going to say your manager, sir, you can check the okay amount for 1001. So again he will execute the same procedure, and you can see there is a 14,000. That is the name of that account number is Prashant. So again tomorrow the manager, again end of the day, the same day, again he is asking for couple of account IDs. So again, that developer, what he need to do, he need to alter this complete stored procedure, and you can run this, create this stored procedure, and you can call the stored procedure to get the data. So how many times he is asking, he need to alter. So that is a very bad habit. Okay, to do that. Okay, so SQL Server invented some other process. So we know we know creating a variables, right? Creating variables, we know how to create a variable. So by creating a variable, we can do, right? So let me drop this is one method we can do, that is fine. By creating a variables we can do. So how? Create proc. Okay, proc name is user stored procedure. So get my balance as begin end. Here I am going to be writing, declaring some variables. Declare at the rate ACID integer data type. Okay. Okay. So now I am going to set some value to ACID. ACID, this is the variable 10010. I have set some value. So now I am writing a query. So this is the query I am going to be writing here. Okay, at the rate ACID you are going to get, right? So whatever the okay data or value available for this particular variable, so that value will come here, and it will run, and it will execute, it will give you the output called okay 10010 Prashant with the balance. So you are going to be creating, so you are going to be calling the stored procedures again. When you call, it will show you the data. This is also fine, but tomorrow if again some other ACIDs your manager is asking, then what you need to do, what you are going to do. Okay, so my manager asked me, okay, Prasad, this is not the correct way. So every time I am asking for this account number and you are giving the data. If I require for another account number, so what I need to do again, I need to come to you. So this is not the correct way. So you can do it dynamically. Dynamically means whatever the value, whatever the account number I will pass, on that account number it should show the data. Okay, it should show the data depends upon whatever the account number I have given. That account number it has to pass to the query, and it has to give the required output. So you need to do dynamically. This is the thing he has dynamically. So to do dynamically, this is a very simple thing. Create proc user stored procedure, uh, get my balance dynamically. So this is the proc name I have given. So to get like that, what I need to do, I need to create an input parameter. Okay, input parameter. So at the rate ACID integer. Okay, so this is an input parameter. Okay, you can, so if we are keeping the variables inside the code, you can call them as variables. If we are keeping the variables outside the code, that means these are the variables, same like variables only, but these variables can call, okay, can use, okay, anybody. That means in this begin and end, I have written some kind of a code. In that code I can use this ACID, so anybody can do. That means for select statement you can do, for insert you can do, for delete you can do, for update you can do. Okay, whatever the things you want to do you can do. You can use this variable, okay, inside the stored procedure. So you can call this as parameter also. So this is an input parameter. That means I will create a procedure. That procedure is available in the RAM. When you provide some value to this parameter, input parameter means while calling the stored procedure you need to pass the value. While calling the stored procedure you need to pass some kind of value. So it will take that value and it will pass that value here, so that ACID is going to be having that value. Wherever you have written the code, that code is going to get. So like this, as begin, end. In this begin and end, I am going to be writing select star from account master table, where ACID is equals to at the rate ACID. Right? Okay, this is that. So not this one. Okay, this has closed here. This has closed here. The variable has closed here. So this is the new one. This is the parameter actually. Okay. So now let me create this. Created. So now the code is stored in the RAM. Okay, so when I call sp exec spd, I need to pass the value, so that, so she, see here, if I hover on this procedure or function usp expects parameter at the rate ACID which was not supplied. So it is telling that you need to pass some value to this ACID here. Okay, it is expecting one parameter. So let me write 10006 or something. Okay, so now it is gone. Now red mark is gone. So when you execute like this, so whatever the value you have for ACID, wherever there is ACID in the code, it will go and it will run that particular code, and it will give you the output of ACID 1006. See this one? Akshay is having this much of balance. Clear? So this is a dynamically. So my manager, what he will do, he will change the number ACID and he will run it. See, 10016 Rakesh is having this much of balance. Okay, like that. Okay, 46. I will check 46. Lata. 46 is Lata. You can see this is the clear balance. Clear, everybody? Very simple, right? Very easy. Okay, so this is what it will do. Clear? So these are the very simple things. Okay, tomorrow we are going to understand some of the examples. Okay, we have some examples like how to do, like how the transaction is going to happen, like transferring the funds from one account to another account, how it is going to do, or how it will done. We can see by through coding. Okay, we can create some stored procedures. So functions it will complete in one class so that we can close. Okay, so if you have any questions in today's session,